Right, hello everybody. So I recently started working on another video series about how to do some graphics programming. And very early on, I hit a need to explain why I wanted to do it in a particular way, kind of the handmade way of basically doing everything from scratch, because it's unorthodox. Most people won't do that, but I thought there was value in doing things like that, and I think it's like it touches on a thing that is extremely common inside and outside of computer graphics and inside and outside of software development in general, which has to do with a dilemma, having to have a choice between using pre-existing things versus um, building everything from scratch. And obviously, it's like there's a spectrum there. You can use some things and you can make other things, etc. So I landed on this title, like training wheels versus wheels for training, because um, there's this two perspective on wheels, and different ways of looking at it. Um, but it ultimately boils down to a question of, like, you're going to a new domain of knowledge that you're not familiar with, and you have a dilemma, like, do you start implementing everything yourself, or do you use pre-existing libraries, and which library do you use, and to what degree do you use libraries, and to what degree do you write things your own way, um, and what's the pros and cons and of of going with each route, and what should you do. Um, I'll explore this question in this talk. So there's this very famous saying of, like, don't reinvent the wheel, because it will probably end up with a square wheel. There's all kinds of things that touch on this topic. Um, there's like the not invented here syndrome that happens in certain organizations, whereby there's this attitude or culture of thinking that anything that is used inside the organization must have been invented inside the organization. Don't use anything from outside, because the organization knows what it needs the most, and there's very smart people in the organization. They're probably smarter than the other people in other organizations or outside, and that's actually true sometimes. Um, but most times it isn't. Most times you're really better off using pre-existing thing, and the thing you made may be very customized to what you want to do, but you also suffer a lot in ways that you wouldn't suffer in any pre-existing thing. Um, so there's this dilemma. We'll explore a few things that people say when they hear that somebody wants to reinvent a wheel, or like use write their own things. So you start with the computer graphics, and one of the first thing you discover that you need is some library for mathematics, particularly linear algebra. You need to do some vector math and do a bunch of vectors and matrices and multiplications and stuff like that. And then there's a question, because most programming languages, even in the standard library, they don't come with a comprehensive linear algebra math library. So you don't have the tools that you need out of the box. So you have a choice to make. Either you start writing your own, or you use one of the many math libraries that are out there. As one of the saying that a person may hear is there's tons of math libraries. Why are you writing another one from scratch? It makes no sense. And there is some truth to that. other math libraries like GLM, they have like CMD acceleration and stuff like that. So there's truth to that. Another thing you may hear with respect to deciding to code directly to the platform layer, it may be Win32 if it's on Windows, as opposed to using some cross-platform library that does a lot of things for you and gets you further ahead, and it runs on all platforms or more platforms. So you're gonna hear like, why you're doing this. Platform-specific APIs are old and ugly and yuck, and why are you doing this? Just use SDL or use GLFW or something like that. And again, there's some truth to that. Another thing, if you say you wanna get into like hardcore rendering code, and you start writing rendering code that runs on the CPU, it doesn't even use the GPU. And so you're gonna hear something like, rendering is for GPUs. Graphics API are great. There's been decades of evolution of hardware and software for doing computer graphics on GPUs, and that's probably what you're gonna end up using if you're gonna make it a career for real-time rendering. So, and like who writes software renderers? Come on, it's the 21st century, and we have like decades of evolution already for using hardware for that. And again, there's a lot of truth to that, but that's like something that you're gonna hear. I'm gonna say some bad things about that, but before I do, I just want to make it very clear that I think wheels are awesome. Okay, SureBit's using logs. Before the invention of the wheel, people were using logs. That's obviously a lot less convenient. And you can add a bunch of wheels, and you got yourself training wheels. And that's like an expression, obviously, for when you first start to learn riding a bicycle. But you can, it's obviously an analogy. So like using a third-party library like SDL or something when you're starting out can be considered like putting on some training wheels, because they get you further ahead. It's like an attachment that you add on the side, and maybe it's temporary, and it's definitely safer, and you're less likely to fall on your face very quickly, and it's a lot less effort when you're first starting. So all of this is totally true, and there's value in thinking like that. However, so let's talk about wheels. So if you take a closer look at a wheel, an actual wheel, you'll see that most wheels are actually not round. In fact, it can be actually useless for a lot of wheels to be round, to be perfectly round. So their not being round is actually kind of useful. And the particular ways in which different wheels are not round actually matters. So there's different ways cater to different use cases, right? And there's a lot of science and development behind all that. And it's about the right tool for the job. It's not, you don't want to try to climb a steep mountain with an inappropriate set of wheels. You're probably not going to get very far, and you're going to have a bad day. And custom wheels that are designed for a particular purpose can be extremely powerful and extremely useful. So that's kind of like the counter argument to everything we heard until now. It's obviously a very broad analogy that you can apply to graphics programming or anything in software development. Um, Basically saying customized things are more powerful than generic things. And also, like, making wheels is fun. Um, and you learn a lot through the process of making wheels, even if you don't use the wheel that you made at all. Just the process of you having gone through trying to reinvent a wheel teaches you a lot. So you do it for the process, not for the thing you get out of it. So there's this saying that I recently saw that I think is really great, which says basically, if you really want to learn about wheels, there's real value in reinventing some. So again, even if you're never gonna end up using the wheels that you reinvented, just the process of going through that and or use that in the process of teaching or in the process of learning, is wheels that you invent just for that process, and then you discard. You don't use them anymore. It's not something that you attach to yourself like a training wheel, and that may be temporary and maybe not. It's something that you actually create and actually invent, and then maybe you discard, or maybe not, or maybe you come up with something that's actually useful long term. So final analysis. If I just got into graphics programming, should I use a library or on my own? And my obvious answer is, of course, yes. Do both. There are values in both approaches. Um, you There's a lot of material out there about training material that uses libraries, and it's very good to familiarize yourself with that code and how it works, even just so you can, you know, use a lot of content to learn how to do things. There's also a lot of value in reinventing your own. It teaches you a lot, and doing both obviously is very exhausting and takes a lot of time and effort and energy. But I believe it's not wasted energy. I think it's very useful, and it's very worth doing. It's worth investing the time and energy on both sides of things. Even if you never end up using a library, I think it's a good thing to learn. It teaches you like all kinds of, you know, design things and stuff like that, and it opens up doors for you for learning things that use it, and for maybe employment. Um, yeah, so that kind of sums it up. If you liked that video, hit the like button, and you can subscribe if you want to be notified for more videos like that. That's it. Bye.